Well, what we've got today is a big, beautiful cherry burl. It measures about 16 inches this way and about 9 inches width. It's very dry. It's been sitting for the better part of 20 years, untouched, and today we're going to make something nice out of this. I'm going to trim a little bit off this side here, but I'm going to try to keep this as natural as I can. So anyway, stand by, let's get to turning.
So the first thing I need to do is get this thing between centers. I use a small Forstner bit. I need to get down past that bark so I've got some good solid wood to make this thing secure and safe, because this was kind of a chunky, wobbly burl for sure. Wasn't sure if it was gonna shake the whole machine apart, so going good. Gonna start getting past that bark nice and slow. See what's underneath and kind of start deciding what shape I want to start leaning this piece toward. It's crazy that I was getting even though this is just bark mostly, I'm getting lots and lots of dust. This piece was so dry. The gentleman I got it from said it had been sitting in his shed for almost 20 years or 20 years or more. And boy, oh boy, he wasn't lying. Very dry, dusty piece. Flattening off the bottom, trying to set up my tenon and foot so I can turn this around and get it in a chuck so it's a little bit more stable. Really deciding if I'm going to leave it oblong at this point, and that's a lot of natural bark, and maybe give it a bowl shape, but keep the wings. Again, at this point I'm still just deciding. For as dry as it was, this was a very easy turn, to be honest. The wood was a pleasure to work with. This is my second time turning a cherry burl. I made the decision at this point to part off the wings and give this a little bit more of a traditional bowl shape, because the wings itself were very fragile, loose, lots of bark, and I thought, the pretty figured burl wood is what I wanted to focus on, so don't hate me. That's what I decided to do. We're going to start giving it some sanding now, getting ready to turn it around. I always sand to about 400 grit, and then I kind of do my standby, which is very fine steel wool, medium Scotch pad, and a very fine Scotch pad. And it gives a real nice, shiny, smooth surface. We'll get this turned around in the chuck and start flattening the top, and I can start moving toward the hollowing process. Very wobbly here, but it eventually cooperated. There was that really good sized void in the front. It was kind of throwing me off as to where do I go in? How do I not take a big chunk out accidentally or get a catch. So it was more just take a little look, take a little look, and see where the piece of wood wanted to go. I started noticing that there were some very loose bits of the bark, so I decided to use some CA to stabilize that a bit more, because I definitely wanted to keep that as part of the rim. Now I'm starting to get down, and I always want to know where my depth is going to be so I don't mess up and make the bottom too shallow, because I always want to leave a little bit of room to drill out for my branding emblem on the bottom. So I try to leave the bottom a little thicker so it gives me some extra wiggle room to do that. Again, even as dry as this piece of wood was, it really cooperated well and was very pleasant to turn, aside from all the dust. Definitely had my respirator on with filtration, not just for the sanding. I used a skew on the inside because that edge was so darn sharp. And I thought, that's not pleasant to pick up and touch. So rounded that a little bit, like that a lot more. And now we're going to set up and start doing some sanding. It'll be very much the same process, sand up to about 400 grit. And I'll use the fine steel wool, medium Scotch pad, fine Scotch pad. A lot of times I'll use a sanding paste, but because of all the voids and everything, it would just get stuck into everything, so I did not do that. I'll use a jam chuck, or excuse me, I'll use a vacuum chuck as a jam chuck. I find that if it's possible, I try to use that because it gives a lot of stability instead of a piece of wood, because it's actually mounted to the lathe. And I'll get rid of that nub when I go to the drill press to use a Forstner bit to drill out my branding emblem. I do like the Brad's tongue wax. Terrific product. Let it sit for about 20-30 minutes before you take it off. Wipe off the excess. It's beautiful. You can do more than one coat, obviously, but at this point I'm just kind of staring at the grain and the figuring of this burl. It was so pretty to me. I really tend to like rustic, I think, and pieces that have natural voids and inclusions. I do fill with some pieces, but when I have a piece like this that just has so much character, I really kind of just tend to leave it alone. Um, Again, personal preference. I do these things because I like them. Um, and obviously it's, again, preference of mine. Nice rustic cherry burl bowl, suitable for the table or countertop. Thank you so much for watching, guys. See you again soon.